So before we get into the presentation, I want to take a little survey here. I want you guys to all, this microphone's funny. I want you guys to all think of a millennial, someone who embodies the word millennial to you. This could be a real person, someone you work with, or a completely fictitious person that you've just come up with because that's who you think of when you think of a millennial. So, by show of hands, how many people in this room are picturing a person wearing a fedora? Keep your hands up. Who's picturing a person wearing a bow tie or suspenders? There's a few more. Who's picturing a person with tattoos? No, there's a few more. Or maybe someone who rides a bike. Keep your hands up. Someone who rides a bike. Someone who rides a skateboard, maybe. Someone who is way into social media. This should get every hand up. Someone with an iPhone or some kind of flagship super duper smartphone. You guys are all envisioning a hipster. And I think we just proved it there. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about what a millennial actually is. And a lot of people think that the word millennial...
It's 1 o'clock.
Really? Thank you. A lot of people think that the word millennial and hipster are synonymous, and they're not. There's lots of hipsters that are millennials, and there's lots of millennials that aren't hipsters. So it's important that if we're going to use this term to define an audience that we want to market to, we're going to have to get some strong definitions around that. So today, what we're going to do is talk about the definition of a millennial. What do the studies say? We're going to look at a few of those studies, and I'm going to show you guys how to create a profile of an audience member. You can do this with many different types of audiences that you're trying to market to, but today we're going to focus on millennials. Millennial misconceptions. Does our perception match the research? Which I think we kind of just proved that we've got some learning to do. How to market to millennials. We're going to talk about some very specific ways, hopefully inspire you guys to add some pieces into your marketing programs that speak directly to millennials, and talk about some apps that we can use to reach out to millennials. So once again, we're just going to flip through these really quickly because this is the start of creating a profile. When you're creating an audience profile, you want to come up with a few traits that define who that particular audience member is. And these are a lot of the things that we think of when we think of millennials. They've never known a life without tech. I don't think we need a study to tell us that. We know that that's pretty much the case. They're hipsters. They're environmentalists. They value transparency. They're looking for adventure. They have a work-life alignment rather than a work-life balance, tiny bit different. They're a risk taker. They're always on social media, and they want instant gratification. I think those are the kinds of things that we just know to be true about millennials. But what we're going to do is take a look at some studies to make sure if that is the case. So if you were in this room and you were born after January 1st, 1980, please stand up. Hello, millennials. Everybody take a look around the room. The people that are standing up are the people that you need to take for a drink later. Because they're going to give you some really great insights on who millennials are. They're working with us. They are in the workforce. They are responsible people. They're not just hipsters sitting on the couch. But that is the cutoff there. So we're going to look at a few studies. And one of the things that's important to know about these studies when you're trying to figure out how a person behaves, you can't just go and ask every single millennial what they like or what they don't like. So what we have to do is look at a various set of studies that talk to different groups of millennials in different places. Now what we're going to find is that two millennials don't agree. A millennial on the East Coast might not behave exactly the same way as one on the West Coast. But what we want to do is look at these studies and see what the tone is that repeats throughout each of these studies. So the first one we're going to look at is with Adweek. Now this one is kind of strange to me because I know a lot of millennials, and I know they have TVs. But what's interesting about this study is that it was done in New York City. So it kind of makes sense that only half of the millennials that were surveyed here even own a TV. They're using their laptops, they're using their phones. That's how they're consuming television. Did you watch this year's Super Bowl? And 60% of them didn't, and some of them couldn't even remember who the halftime act was. We have a lot of millennials that are using or prefer reading books in print over reading digital media. There's that sense of wanting to be connected to the vintage, wanting to be able to reach back into time and really feel and connect with the media that they're consuming. So we see a lot of them prefer to have a hard-covered book over using Audible or using a Kindle. And where they're shopping, again, we see that nod to the old, that vintage feel. They're shopping at the thrift store. That's the number one place where this particular group of people said they bought their clothing. Are you guys familiar with Tinder? I don't think there's anybody who's not familiar with Tinder. So just in case you don't know, it's a dating app. And your picture shows up. The person looking at it decides if they like you or not. If they do, they swipe right. If they don't, they swipe left. If you happen to swipe right on a person who also was swiping right on you, then you connect and you get to go on a date. So, well, yeah, there's a few steps in between, but that's the general idea. So have you ever been on a Tinder date? So here we're looking at, oh no, don't go backwards. 70% said no, which I thought was kind of surprising. I see some faces going, oh, that is kind of surprising, but think about it, 30%. So out of 130 of them went on a Tinder date. That is actually kind of high. To use a piece of technology, to use an app, to find someone to date, there's a lot of people doing that. So while the number seems low, that is quite a few people. So we're gonna just kind of breeze through this one pretty quickly. I'm gonna give you the platforms that millennials are on, according to this study, in order of most popular. So of course we've got Facebook. 91% of those surveyed were on Facebook, 73% on Instagram, Snapchat, 56%, Twitter, 44%. I was kind of surprised to see Snapchat and Twitter in an opposite direction there. Tumblr, we're looking at 31%, Pinterest, 23%, and Periscope, 22%. Which was surprising to me as well. Periscope's not that old. So people are adopting this technology pretty quickly. And of course, Google Plus at 17%. We'll just move on. So KT created another set of studies that looked at how much time millennials were consuming information. And again, what we're gonna do is take some of the things we learned in the Adweek study, which is they like vintage. You know, they are going on Tinder dates, so they're embracing technology to do things that, you know, maybe people wouldn't do in the past. Here, we're seeing that they are spending 18 hours a day consuming media. Who else thinks that's insane? That is a whole lot of time. But, you know, I was thinking about this, and I kind of, you know, reflected it to my own life and how much, you know, time I actually spend consuming media. And, you know, I wake up in the morning, and the first thing I do is I grab my phone. And I'm one of the sad people that's looking at Google Plus. There's a lot of great SEO tips as a side note, because there's a ton of analysts that are trying to push Google Plus. So if you are looking for your own SEO tips, that's a great place to go, and that is what I look at in the morning. I also am looking at my other social media streams. And as I'm getting ready, I'm a sucker for Crass. I don't know why, I just love it. I listen to Howard Stern in the morning. So I'm listening to Sirius Radio, paid radio. In the car, I plug in my phone, I'm listening to Pandora. When I get to work, I happen to be an analyst, so I'm online optimizing sites all day long. But if I wasn't, I would still be checking my social media streams. I would still be on YouTube every once in a while. I would still be listening to Pandora. So again, I'm spending my 8 hours at work consuming media, and I'm sure a lot of you are too. I get back in the car, we got Pandora again. I get home, And it's YouTube, it's Netflix, it's my home entertainment while I'm cooking dinner or getting ready for bed. And I have actually consumed about 18 hours of media. I could see how that would happen. When you look at it as a stat, it's like, this is insane. Why would anybody do that? But it's because it's all around us. And we have found ways to work that into our life patterns. And as marketers, what we have to do is make sure that we are on those platforms so that we can get the same attention. So I don't think that this is a surprise at all. We want immediate access. We're looking for multitasking opportunities. We want convenience of viewing. Millennials are checking their smartphones 43 times a day. They're always connected. When you put it down on paper, it looks crazy. But when you think about what you do all day long, it kind of makes sense. Goldman Sachs. Millennials at home, a growing number of millennials are choosing to live at home with their parents. Choosing. Now, there's a lot of things that play into that, and it's probably not this burnout on the sofa. It's more of a conscious decision, but these millennials do go to work, and they might go back home and live with their parents, but they're working. They have disposable income. They're a viable market. When I was first asked to research this and do this presentation, I thought, why? Millennials don't have any money. They're this burnout on the couch. Why would I spend my marketing dollars on someone who is not going to spend money? But it's just not the case. And the more you look into the numbers, the more you'll see that it makes sense. Millennials are wellness conscious. Looking at a study of how much money they've spent in apparel in general, so suits, ties, shoes, just things that you wear, as compared to athletic brands, that percentage has increased every single year since 2010. So, I was supposed to be smoother with that and say it as I was clicking through. I forgot to click through. So imagine that was smooth. So, they're spending more money on athletic brands more often than general apparel. So that shows us again that they are wellness minded. They're into athletics, they're into adventure, and that's something that we're seeing over and over again in these studies, and it's something that defines who a millennial is. When a brand uses social media, I like that brand more. Lots of millennials are saying this. Again, this is the study from Goldman Sachs, and people are wanting to connect with a company that they're spending money with. And that's all it is. They're on to us as marketers. They know that we could stretch the truth every once in a while. And they want to know that the message that they're hearing and what they're receiving is coming from a real place. So we can't use that old style of buy now, it's big, get it here. We have to be truthful in our marketing, and we have to connect on a real level. So the White House is also in this millennial study game. Millennials have been shaped by technology. I don't think that one is a surprise at all. This study goes a little bit wider than the Goldman Sachs and the Adweek studies. It was looking at millennials all over the US and not just in a central area. Millennials are now the largest, most diverse population in the US. And another point that study found is millennials value community, family, and creativity in their work. So what we're seeing over and over again is that millennials want to connect. They want to have that sense of creativity. They also want to know that what they're investing their time and their dollar in is something that is going to be meaningful and something that is going to send a positive message. So let's talk about those misconceptions. A lot of those we've brought up already, but let's get really specific about them. So millennials have no money. It's absolutely not true. They spend roughly $600 billion annually. So I know that this millennials have no money idea is something that a lot of people agreed with. And even, just talking to some of my clients and to some other analysts, we all kind of have the same idea before we started looking into these studies. And that's the reason why the White House and Goldman Sachs would even bother doing these kinds of studies. They want to understand how the millennial thinks so they can start to craft the messages that go out to them. They are wasteful with their money, but we're actually finding that they rely on family and friends for purchasing decisions, and that they have no love. They don't care about a brand. They're not loyal to a specific brand. They're looking to see what their friends do, but they actually value customer service and personal connection. And in some of the newer marketing messages, we're seeing that more often. We're seeing that we value a review on Yelp because that tells us that there's something real that happened there. There was a real transaction with a real live person. This is not just information that's on the web that anyone can throw out. It's telling a story, and it's creating a personal connection. So I think one of the most surprising points that we found in these studies is that millennials are parents. That was definitely, for me, one of the biggest shockers. But 40% of millennials are already parents. And in the next 10 to 15 years, of course, 80% of them will be parents. So when you're talking about connecting with a millennial, if you think of that, hipster riding the skateboard, you don't really think about the millennial with their daughter or son. But this is certainly a message that can help you connect better with that millennial market. And in this study, they were asking what the biggest influences were for millennials making spending decisions about their children. And again, we're seeing that they want a real connection with a real person. So they're talking to the pediatrician, they're talking to good friends, and their own mother. And that's where they're getting their advice from. So let's talk about some tactics we can use. So of course, all of this is telling us we want to get personal. We want to reference things like location or age or the referring site that user came from. Any way that you can get a real connection and show that you care about where that person's been or what that person has done. And just a quick example from an ad from one of my clients was, don't just tweet about it, come hang with us. So don't just talk about it, get active. And it speaks to millennials wanting to be active. They are adventurous people, and there is also a connection there with knowing that this person has tweeted before, knowing that we are receptive to this ad because of the tracking URLs that we've used to follow them. Using humor, be bold and unique, cheap enough to say, fuck it, I'll go. This is an ad that was used by AirAsia. It's absolutely something that will attract attention, to say the least. And it's funny, it's rememberable. And it's something that we don't have to push the brakes on. We know that if we can make that real connection based on humor, being bold and sending out our message, that's a great way to push AirAsia's message of this is an inexpensive flight for you. But I think it's a fantastic use of being bold and unique. Showing value. In this example, we are giving something for free. And here I say that laughs count. In this example, we're using a pinup ad, which is in a New York City subway. And it gives the impression that you are sitting on a ski lift. But with this ad itself, someone can just post this and have something that's interesting to take away from that experience of an ad. So don't just tell someone, come to this destination. Give them a way to send a funny message or to say, hey, I'd love to try this. And here's something that they could take away, some kind of experience that they've had when interacting with the ad itself. So millennials do share deals. In this particular study, we're seeing 90% of millennials actually share deals. Word of mouth never goes away. Word of mouth is valid in every single ad group that you'll look at. They're always going to talk to each other. And in this study, they're saying 71% of millennials are doing that. They're sharing on social media. specifically ads. They're sharing by 30% by text. They're also sharing 45% with physical coupons, which was another surprise to me in this set of studies. I didn't think anybody was handing out coupons. But this is something that is actually working with the millennial group. Appeal to their sense of adventure. Again, we've talked about this. We know that millennials are adventurous. Use that imagery. And these are various examples within your visitor guide. That's obviously the perfect place to use that imagery and to include points that people would actually pay for. A beautiful image or a great travel plan. Make it so great that they can't believe that it's actually free and something that they can just order. Don't rely on logos or calls to action. We're always talking about a call to action when we're marketing, but it's not really necessary to bang them over the head with it. So in this example, this is a video that I want to show you guys.
Hi, you are not going to believe where I am now. Iceland. Yeah, it's amazing, really. Have a look at this, yeah? Hey, I'm in love. My fingers keep on clicking to the beating of my heart. Hey, I can't stop my feet. Every and dancing in the street. Hey, it's 'cause of you. The world is in a crazy, hazy hue. My heart's beating like a jungle drum. My heart's beating like a jungle drum. My heart's beating like a jungle drum. Man, you got me burning. I'm the moment between the striking and the fire. Read my lips, 'cause all they say is kiss, 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 kiss. Ooh, it will never stop. My hands get yes, I'm in love. My heart's beating like a jungle drum. My heart's beating like a jungle drum. My heart's beating like a jungle drum.
So on YouTube, this video has 2.6 million views. Looking at their analytics, 77% of the time people are watching all the way to the end. At no time in this video did anybody say, come to Iceland. It was just about inspiring people and telling the story. I mean, is there anybody in the room right now that wants to go to Iceland because they saw this video? Yeah, I mean, it is a really exciting piece of work because from a marketing perspective, there was no call to action. There wasn't anyone saying you've got to actually come and spend money. We just want to inspire you based on what we can show you about the destination. The artist used to create this piece, the music that you heard was an artist from Iceland. Everyone in the video was either with the CVB or they were actors that were in Iceland. It was all created to support this effort to get more people to come. But at no time did they beg for likes. They didn't ask you to do anything. They just wanted you to experience how amazing their destination is. And we want to encourage champions on social media. Last year, the Poconos did, if you were at SoMeT last year, they talked about their campaign, Take on Pocono. They're still running this campaign, and they do a really great job of making sure that at areas in their destination where it would be a great place for someone to take a photo, they're putting up standees that promote the hashtag, and they have over 11,000 photos right now using this particular program. But you want to encourage people on social media to come to your destination, take really great pictures, have a really great experience, and then talk about you. Millennials are 262% more likely to be influenced by smartphone apps. And when we say smartphone apps, this also includes responsive websites, anything that is formatted to fit with a mobile device. They are in their phones constantly. And I don't think there's any surprise there. And the studies are showing us that that is absolutely true. So let's put together a better list of millennial traits. So we know millennials are tech savvy. They're getting dates with their phone. They have never known a life without technology. We know that they make up about a quarter of the US population. So if they are not a part of your marketing plan, they absolutely need to be, because you're missing out on a large chunk there. Their friends and family matter. They care about what people they know are saying, and they want to know that you have a personal connection with your customers. Uh-oh. No. Everybody pause. Yeah, if you could just play it again, I don't know. Oh, I thought you were helping me. It's just sitting there. Let's try this. And one more time. There we go. Well, it's been baby boomers by 2017. They're devoted to social media. Content drives engagement. And millennials do have children. So that can be a part of your plan. They respond to unique and creative interactions, and they're wellness-minded. So how do we get them to come out and play? We used to have a very limited source for marketing. You either marketed yourself in the newspaper, in a magazine, in the yellow pages. There wasn't a whole lot of directions you can go in. And because there were so few directions to go in, it was easy to get your message in front of the right people. Now, we have to be involved in every single one of these points in order to get our message in front of those people. And that's really important to understand, that there's not a magic bullet, so to speak. There's not just one place you can go to market your message and expect your audience to see it. This is true for millennials and any other generation that you're marketing to. So this kind of talks about whether traditional media is still a part of the game. Looking at the studies, it's clear that there's a mix of traditional media consumption with digital media consumption. In the silent generation, of course, they're consuming traditional media a lot more. We're seeing with baby boomers, there's a split, or we're getting closer to that split, and it's very prevalent with Gen Xers. But millennials do still have some traditional media consumption. They're looking at a newspaper, they're looking at a magazine. Again, it's about spreading your message across multiple mediums in order to attract the user that you're looking for. So let's chat about some apps. Periscope. This is a newer application, and I have a video to show you guys, because I think one of the downfalls, essentially, of Periscope is in quality. If you don't have a really great connection, you end up with this grainy video. But what we found is that it's still working. So if you guys have used the app before, you know that everything on the right and left side is actually within the screen you're looking at. But in this video, they've used an app to separate all of that so you can see the video on its own and see the comments being made. But I want you to see the interaction, even though this is really terrible quality when it comes to video.
The Californian sunshine by having the cap on backwards. There's Chris giving you all the hashtag Big Blue Live. That's what we're about. It's all about blue. Hang on, I've got icons appearing. Chris, is this all right?
That's great.
That's not going to be going out to everybody
They're
else.
questions.
Oh, they're questions. Oh, hang on. Hey, Matt. Hi. Hello, you. Hello. How are you? Now, both mate. I'll stop reading just in case it all starts going on. Anyway, so we're here in Monterey Bay. Gosh, there's loads of things coming in. Oh, you're in Cornwall. Yeah, well, California is something else, let me tell you. This bit is just a tiny little section of what we're going to be showing you live on Big Blue Live. I can just give you an idea of some of the sightings that we've been having, because it's all about spotting wildlife here. Obviously, we've come for the big things like the humpback whales, blue whale fingers crossed. There's even great white sharks out there, and you see these red spots there. These are great white spottings and sightings as well. These are humpback whales. I saw my first humpback just about 100 meters that way. It was hilarious actually. We were having a conversation about humpbacks having a meeting, and then somebody ran in and said, "Quick, there's one outside, there's one outside." So out I went, and it was absolutely phenomenal. You must love your job. Yes, I do, very much indeed. It's a little bit stressful when you're about to go live, but in general, it's a wonderful, wonderful job. Let me show you all the technology that we've got here.
So, in this example, it's terrible video. The guy is not quite sure how to even use the tool, but he's being real and he's connecting with people. The hearts that you see floating up on the right side here, that is somebody tapping, showing that they like what they're seeing. Each different color iteration that you see is another person. So you're seeing that they're getting the equivalent of likes. And then the messaging that's popping up over on the left side, people are interacting with him. So don't be afraid to use Periscope. It's a technology that millennials are using. And even if you don't get the best quality video because you don't have the greatest connection or you're not the greatest broadcaster, if you've got something exciting to show it and get people involved. And it really makes it a fantastic personal connection. Yonder is another app that you guys can get involved with. With this particular app, you can post images, you can post blog posts about your experience out in the wilderness. The idea here is that the app updates, so all of the content lives within the app itself. So if you are somewhere and you're looking for a bike trail, or you're looking for a great place for canoeing, you can find that information even if you're not connected. So Yonder has been gaining in popularity really quickly. It's only been out for about 6 months, but the content on there has grown exponentially. So it is a fantastic program. Trapozo is another program that works a little bit like Yonder, but it's more for city life rather than looking out into the wilderness. So just to give you a demo on Trapozo.
We love travel, but we love it especially if you go beyond the main sites, if you explore. At Trapozo, we make travel guides for your mobile device and let you travel like a local. Learn about places the locals come to relax, and find the coffee places where the crowds hang out, as well as the main monuments and sites. We make an app that lets you wander around with maps that work offline, so you can just get lost and always find your way back. But you can't really wander around if you need to consult your phone the whole time. And that's why we want to make the travel belt. It has buzzers on all 4 sides. You connect it to your phone, and it will guide you to wherever you need to be going.
How fantastic is that? I mean, that's even better than a smartwatch. So with Traposo, the way that you interact or get involved in adding content to this particular app is to make sure that your site is optimized, because Traposo is based off of an algorithm that is scraping sites for content. So if you're seeing those bad bots in your Google Analytics that are not human traffic and they're really obnoxious, it is because sites like this are going onto your site and getting information so that they can use it in these kind of apps. But the way to optimize that would be to make sure that you have plenty of information, maps, travel ideas that are being scraped and allowing those bots to come onto your site so that these apps can have that kind of information. So again, a great use of being able to collect content and put it in a place that's accessible, even if you don't have Wi-Fi access. And I'm really interested to see what happens with that belt, because I think that's pretty cool. Of course, we all know Yelp. This is another way to have a real relationship, a real conversation with the user. I don't think there's probably anybody who hasn't interacted with Yelp before. And TV food maps. This is an app that allows you to see restaurants that have been featured on foodie television shows. And it's a great way to connect with something that you've seen in broadcast or something that you've seen on television right at your destination. So this is another cool, handy app. Facebook beacons. If you guys have not ordered your beacons, do it today. There is the link. This is free for you for now, and all you have to do is put it up and use it. It is a great way to send messages through Facebook whenever your users are close to the beacon. It's just going to pop up on their phone as long as they are enabled. So some ideas of where to set that beacon up. Visitor centers. You want to make sure that the content you're posting is relevant and fresh. And you're posting for people at a local level. So the content that you're using, make sure that it's talking about things that they can do right there in that area. Offer special incentives to people who are following the beacon so that they stay in contact with your beacon. And you can have multiple beacons set up throughout the city, but the visitor center is the obvious place to start with that.